Few weeks ago, I wrote a blog on velocity. Velocity is one of the critical, most talked, most used, most abused metrics of Agile. I thought it's good if I elaborate it better and write a blog about it. Now, in this video, I am elaborating that blog further so that you can get a better perspective behind my thinking related to the velocity. So I will keep showing the blog and talk about various aspects which are discussed in the blog on velocity. You can find the same blog by visiting our website, iZenBridge.com/blog, and we will also put the link related to the blog in the comment section. So do check the description of this particular video. Now, in this blog, I am looking into the aspect. First, let's define what is velocity. Then we look into how do we use velocity, what kind of good uses of the velocity, and then possibly some risky uses of velocity, or maybe you can call it anti-pattern or something which can take us away from the purpose of measuring velocity. So let's start with understanding what is velocity. So we want to find out how are we doing, how our team is progressing towards the finishing of the work, at what rate we are finishing our work. Now, the velocity is something which helps us in identifying our rate of work completion. Now, the problem is how do we quantify our work? Since we are in a knowledge industry, we are not having very crystal clear definition of the work and its sizing. So there will be a variability, and we understand that variability, and by considering all those aspects in the Agile world, we usually use story point for estimating our work. So our work is estimated in a story point or in some measurement system. So you quantify the work, and after that, you measure how much work is done in a given time box so that you identify the rate of work completion. And that is what we call velocity. So in a simple word, number of story points completed in a given time box, sprint, or you call it iteration, is your velocity. You can look at the historical information to find out that what is the average velocity we have. Sometimes you also use a forecasted velocity based on historical number. But as a definition, it is purely just sum total of number of story points done in a given iteration. Now, you should be doing it done as per your definition of done. So we should have a clear understanding what is a criteria of marking a completion of a work and what was the size that work was associated with. And when we sum that total, it comes to the velocity. Now, how do we use it? Once we have it, what are the possible uses? So let's talk about release planning. So many times in the Agile way of working, also, you are expected to do some little bit long-term forecast. You need to forecast what probably will get done in a 3 months time or 6 months time. As you understand, in Agile ways of working, we do not have a very crystal clear agreed upon requirement. So once I don't have an agreed upon requirement, but I'm still wanted to forecast what can be done, I need to find some middle way where I can do that forecast based on high level understanding of the requirement. I may not want to do detailed analysis of those requirements because requirement may change. So here the velocity comes into the picture. We can say that I can estimate my work items in story points, and with the help of velocity, I can find out my average rate of work completion per time box, and based on number of items or the size of items and my rate, I can find out how much can be done in a given time box, say 3 months or 6 months time. Let's take an example. I may want to focus on that when can I release these 10 items? So 10 product backlog items. Now, in a given sprint, I am planning 2 only, but you want to have some understanding when these remaining 8 can be done. So what we do, we estimate these 10 items using story points. So that give a quantity that quantify the work, that quantify the size of those items. Now we have a historical velocity information, which means from last year 2-3 sprints, you know that on average you finish say 15 story points per iteration. That becomes your velocity. So if your velocity is 15, and you have, say, 90 story points work left in the remaining 8, you can identify that if I go with this size, it will take 6 iterations, because 15 per iteration. So 32, another 30, another 2, another 30, another 2. You can say that I will take 6 iterations to finish 90 story points. And that is, we call it release planning. We can even tentatively plan which all items will go in which iteration, but velocity helps us in identifying the release duration and facilitate doing release planning. Now, does it mean that we will be able to do it without variance? That we will finish all the 8 remaining items in 6 iterations? Not necessary. There is expected to be a variance because the story point estimation is expected to have some deviation, some errors. You don't know exactly how many hours it is going to take. There could be some more surprises. There could be maybe a better understanding of the requirement over the period of time. But at the same time, we should get some forecast. If you have experience of good historical velocity number, if your sizings are more predictable, then the variance will be less. If you are doing this release planning in the early stage of your product development, your release planning may have more deviations, but we will inspect and adapt each sprint end to find out how are we moving towards our release goal. So we use velocity for doing release planning. That's a fun use. Now, feedback on delivery rate predictability. Now, in the release planning space, we used the average velocity. Now, how predictable these velocities are? Can I really say the 15 is a good number? Or I am always confused whenever I take a number for velocity prediction. So if I see my trend, if I see the range of my upper and lower velocity numbers coming in the previous iterations, and if they remain in an identifiable range, maybe a ±3, ±5, which you can deal with, then you can say that I can fairly predict my upcoming work. If your range is going in a very drastic up and down, then you know that future predictability of our work is less because our velocity is not yet settled down. So by having a visibility of our velocity over a period of time, looking at multiple iterations, here I am showing in a bar chart format, it helps us in understanding that how predictable our velocity is. And based on that predictability, it also helps us in predicting our upcoming work as well as doing release planning. So we can identify the predictability of our work based on the range and the trend of velocity. You can also use velocity metrics to improve your planning accuracy. So in a simple word, many times people use the planned story points and delivered story points. So per iteration, you may check that how many story points were planned and what was the real velocity during that particular space. And the variance can be used to see that, okay, probably we need to improve our planning process because we have always more than, say, 30% variance. Again, it's not a pure usage of velocity. Velocity is velocity, but when the velocity gets compared with the planned velocity, it may also help you in doing better planning during your sprints as well as on your releases. Finally, this one seems to be interesting. Many times, people use velocity to capacity ratio. Yeah, this is something like, okay, during various sprints, you may have some holidays. Yeah, so then it may show some variance in the velocity. There is a possibility sometimes people join your team, sometimes people leave your teams. So there is a change in the capacity. So as a diagnosis tool, sometime as a Scrum Master or project manager, whatever role you carry, you may want to analyze what is our number of available hours or a days versus number of story points done in a given sprints. What is our ratio happening? Now, this velocity to capacity ratio help us in understanding how well we are using our productive time. Again, it is not necessarily directly linked with team performance. There could be some automation issues or other impediments which are making us slow. And the objective is to find out, okay, are we improving in making best use of our hours, or we are going in a negative direction and we are making less and less use of our hours? So The velocity versus capacity ratio, capacity can be in the days or in hours, can help us in identifying how efficiency is happening at an overall team level with the help of overall environment as well. So these are the four possible uses of velocity. I would say that they are frequently seen in most of the agile teams. So probably you want to use some of them into your agile space. Now, some risky uses, and I'm sure you all must be having experience of these risky uses. Velocity used as a team comparison metric. So, no, these guys are doing 20, you are doing 15. Now, somebody will say, what is the harm in it? Each team is unique. They have a different skill set. They have a different composition. Even if they have the same number of people, but again, the nature of work, the technology, the environment is different. And if you put a comparison, since our work quantification is not very scientifically done, it is not very objectively identifiable work items because we are working in a knowledge industry. So when the work are not very crystal clear comparable, comparing the rate of work may become risky. And that's why when the work are estimated by the teams, better we let the team to reflect on the velocity for their own purpose rather than comparing amongst the multiple team. So that's the reason it is not a good idea, because it can create other dysfunctions. People may start quantifying their work differently because they want to show good, but the overall impact may not be helpful for the project. Velocity is a performance matrix, which is indirectly related to the first point only. When you focus on comparison, the teams may also start focusing on improving the velocity. Now, even if without comparison, do we want to see a 10% improvement in the velocity every month? Some organization has those kind of goals. Now, what is the risk? The work, which is a quantification unit, and the completion, which is a definition of done, both the things has a variability attached. So team, the stakeholder can play with it. And since those two parameters has a variability attached, the rate of work is also not alone dependent on the team. There could be some organizational issues, there could be dependencies, which may also slow us down. Sometimes because of some benefits of the previous reusability, your work may go fast. So your rate of work is not in 100% control of the team. The quantification is not very crystal clear. Your completion may also vary. Then we should not be using it as a performance matrix and giving target for improvement all the time. Now, at the same time, we can definitely observe it. We can say why our velocities are going down, why it is going up, what should we do things differently so that we have a better rate of work. So that way, it's a good use, but targeting increasing the number may increase the velocity number, but may not increase the rate of work. So we may lose the uses of it because we are only focusing on the number. And in my personal opinion, this all is because the variability attached with the calculation. The size is subjective. And when based on the subjective size, we should use this rate for as a one information, but we can't just rely on this rate to make a performance kind of judgment for a given team. Now, the percentage growth, I think I took it along with performance metrics. So always expecting a percentage growth may be also a risky thing. So you can find more details. Do visit our blog. And if you have any follow-up query, you can post as a comment of the blog, or you can also post as a comment of this particular video.